This is VOCM Open Line. Call 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626. The views and opinions of this program are not necessarily those of this station. The biggest conversation in Newfoundland and Labrador starts now.
Good Friday morning, everyone. Brian Callahan in the big chair today as the game of musical chairs continues here in the wake of Paddy's sudden departure earlier this week. I say in the big chair. I never actually sit in the chair here in the studio, really. I'm more of a stander, just the whole concept of sitting, getting too comfortable, relaxed. And, you know, you see all these workplaces now with the ergonomic setups, you know, people standing at their desk, and it's much healthier. But I'm a very much go, go, go kind of guy, and if I sit down to get too comfortable, I'm done. So, you know, I think the most appropriate place for me today, and I know Linda had some, I echo everything Linda said the day after Paddy departed. You know, I think the most appropriate place for me to start here today is with the final words from Paddy himself as he signed off for the last time on Tuesday, which, by the way, feels like a month ago at this point. So before he signed off, he stressed the importance of kindness. You know, be kind to each other. Just in everything you do, think about it before you say anything. What a concept. Some people just can't bring themselves to do it. Can't offer a comment or opinion without peppering it with some F-bombs or insults or downright juvenile name-calling or meanness or hatred. Everything's got to be uppercase letters, 1,000 exclamation points. Look, 15, 16 years is a long run in any job, let alone this one. And I'm not going to speak for Paddy here, but to some extent you can read between the lines. This job, this full-time job, I might add, not for the faint of heart by the least. And we know that. You know, we're open to barbs, criticism, debate, you name it. That's all good. That's what the show is for. You know, a good exchange of opinion. In an adult way, by all means, bring it on. But when it goes down the road of getting personal, you know, the attacks. But trust me, what you hear on the show can be about 10% of what actually comes at the host of this show. So just keep that in mind as well. You know, the attacks, that sort of thing. We don't, that's the cesspool of social media, and it can't be allowed to bleed into this show, Open Line. So, and look, I don't know what the future holds for this show. I certainly wish Paddy nothing but the best in his future endeavors. I have no doubt he will land on his feet, whatever he chooses to do, but that's also his personal thing right now. So, that's where it stays for me with him. I will also say this, there is no question, and I loathe to use this overused phrase of late, but it certainly applies here. These are big shoes to be filled, and but if there's any, I'll say consolation for the next host of Open Line, it's that there's no real pressure to fill Paddy's. I can tell you that, because we all know he is irreplaceable. It's been said, and I'll just say it again. His quick recall of history and knowledge right on the spot of any subject you throw at him. But it is a full-time job, and the work he did off the air, you never saw, but that's why he was so prepared and so good. So, the refrain of, he or she is not Paddy Daly, is correct. That should allow the next host, really, whoever that is, to relax a little, put their own stamp on the show, and away you go. Anyway, that's enough of that. A little sports, because I'm a sports fanatic too, and I'm going to steal that little process that Paddy liked to do off top of the show. Let's do quick chicken and the Scotties. Of course, Newfoundland finished with one win, the Mitchell Rink. Valuable experience, say what you want. And they're into the finals and the playoffs there the weekend. And the Aussie Open, I can't get enough of a little bit of that this time of year. Even if I'm not down sunbaking with the rest of them, it just... somehow that warmth of the sun gets in my bones a little bit, gives me hope for the spring. But Djokovic and Sinner right now, that is epic. It's ongoing because of the time difference, about 12, 13, 14 hours almost difference. They're at this tomorrow tomorrow night. So, the Djokovic-Sinner is ongoing. I know that Alcaraz already advanced to the final with a 5-setter over Zverev. Missed both because just too busy. And it looks like, and I know this was mentioned a few times on the show, but it does look like now there was a good, wholesome update on the Olympic hockey rink for the Olympics. And by the way, that the women start on Wednesday next week already. So the women hockey team, the women's hockey in Olympics, that starts on Wednesday. And I think the men start on the 11th of February. Let's see. So positive reports now on the rink. They think it's going to be okay. The powers that be are over there looking at it, and there's some issues, but I think they're going to make it. And I don't know if you saw this, but how about the Habs and Nordiques last night? And Nordique, I should say. Big-time nostalgia game last night. Of course, the Nordique donned their original back to the Colorado Avalanche, took off their Colorado Avalanche and put on the Nordique, and back to throwback to the Battle of Quebec. That heated rivalry, shall we say, pun intended. That played out in the 80s and 90s. Remember it vividly. And the Habs took the Avalanche to town last night, put 7 up on them, 7-3. And no small part in due to Jakub Dobiš, the Habs goalie, stood on his head last night. Anyway, let's get on to some news. So here we go again. Just before the show began this morning, we heard from the mayor of Town of Badger. It felt like only a matter of time. I spoke with the Mayor Butt there on Monday here on the show. And, it's not a great rite of passage, but it is an annual one, flood watch on the river. So we're keeping an eye on it. Of course, we know the evacuations and that sort of thing. The entire town is under evacuation alert. We'll be keeping an eye on it. That's in real time. So I don't want to say anything that could change in the next minute. But we're keeping an eye on it. And anyone living out that way, and the mayor, of course, I know you were on the morning show a little while ago, but if there's anything from anyone in an official capacity out that way who wants to give us a little update, or even a resident who may be displaced, how you're feeling about it. And anyone who remembers back in 2003 who may still be there, the big one. But, it's been an ongoing concern since then. So, and not to be taken lightly. I hope I'm not giving it short shift here. But in any event, we're watching that closely. And it speaks to the importance because I'm mentioning it now. And 1,000 places I could go. Weather is always a big one. More weather coming next week. It looks like a big one from Sunday night into Monday morning, which, of course, Monday being Groundhog Day, one of my favorite movies, it'll probably feel just like it to a lot of us because these storms have been so plentiful that it just history seems to keep repeating itself. So we're keeping an eye on the weather, and we'll have updates, of course, but the weather changes quickly, although this does look pretty certain that we're going to get another good blast on top of what we've already got coming on Sunday into Monday. All right, so the First Ministers and the Prime Minister, of course, met this week, and that concluded now, but they all held a news conference yesterday and that sort of thing, and they did their media, including our own Premier Tony Wakeham. He did a lot of media yesterday afternoon. I will say this, there's a lot of vagaries. That's the word I'll use. There's still a lot of vagaries, and it's still early. There were vagaries, I guess, until the hammer came down on infrastructure projects earlier this week. And, of course, all the changes going on now at Memorial University as a result of the province telling them to get their affairs in order, especially if we want to keep that tuition freeze in place for the fall coming. The big decisions there that came down this week. But, and we can get into all of that on Memorial University, on the loss of Harlow, on what to do with the Geo Center. Good to hear that they gave the Johnson Family Foundation a good heads up on that. That would have been a real faux pas if they hadn't. But, yes, they were careful to say they did give them the notice. But they're also quick to say that the university, that they hold title to that land. And so hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, it's ours, and we do, hold the right to do what we want with it. But let's just hope cooler heads prevail. Personally, I think nothing should happen with it. It shouldn't change any of its current posture, what it does for tourism, what it does for education. And just the venue itself is beautiful. I've been there for several different events. I've been there for a wedding. I've been there for news conferences. I've been there for concerts. Say what you want. It is a jewel in our tourism crown. There's no question about that. And I hope that kind of stays the way it is. As far as the Emera Innovation Center, first of all, whether the Emera name will stay on it. I worked in that building when it was the Battery Hotel in the 80s. I worked for a couple of years as a porter and in the kitchen and everything else going through university at the Battery Hotel. So I've watched that place change over the years, to say the least. And it's a beautiful structure. What happens to it, who knows? Always open to speculation on that one. But the Premier did do media, of course, on the MOU and did meet with the current Premier of Quebec, François Legault, yesterday. And, again, very vague on the discussion. Of course, it's a conversation, and I don't expect him to give a blow-by-blow Cole's notes or even, a regurgitation of what they talked about. But they did talk about the MOU and that sort of thing. And a lot of media, the talk is out there. We all know. The deadline, the Premier says by the end of April. I don't know why it has to be at the end of April. I mean, if they get any indication that the MOU seems to be in any way, reasonable and sufficient. I mean, it's not that I doubt they're looking at it with red markers saying, okay, let's find stuff that's wrong with it. Hopefully, they're just looking at it objectively, which is another word I'm going to use in a little while, and let the chips fall where they may, and make sure politics is not a part of it. Even though it's impossible for us to think that with, the factors such as the changing Quebec government that we believe will happen, certainly if the polls bear anything out. And the Premier says we're willing to wait, that the value of electricity, the value of that asset continues to grow and has grown since even the MOU was signed last year, and that's great. So it seems that the strategy is we know that it's a massive asset, that Quebec will need the power, we assume. Still, they need it now. And the Premier believes they'll need it even more in the future, and that's why they'll be willing to negotiate amendments, if you will, changes to the current MOU, if this province so believes it's necessary. And, the MOU itself, that's all fine, but the point has been made that, there is a deal in place now, and both provinces agree to it. And it can create a lot of solutions to the financial problems we certainly have. And that's not the reason to sign it and not look back. But it is a reason. The other factor here, of course, is that if we're thinking about that we may be able to make changes when, say, a separatist government comes to power in Quebec, I'm not so sure that's true. I mean, it's certainly not going to get any easier. So if our thinking is we'll go back to them and say, look, we don't like this, we want this change and that change, I don't think it's going to get any easier with a separatist party that already says the current MOU is unfair to them. So they've already have that position. So if we're going to just go down the road, scrap the current one, and hope for the best with dealing with Quebec separatists, I don't know. I don't know if that's a great strategy. I'm open to opinion. Again, I'm not in the room with the negotiators. And on that note, it's still a little fuzzy to me whether or not we're actually negotiating at this point. And who's on the team. I guess CEO of NL Hydro, Jennifer Williams, is still on the team. It appears to be. We know that Carl Smith is not on the negotiating team anymore. And the third player has left back in October. So don't quite know where the talks are, if there are in fact talks. If they're going back and forth as they go through the review of the MOU and even discuss little points. And I mean, can we just sign something that says it's fair between the two provinces? So sign on the bottom line, both provinces agree it's fair, and if it turns out it's not, a la 1969, then, the side hard done by gets compensation, or it's acknowledged and the fix is made. I mean, that could be a contract. I don't know. I'm just shooting it off the top of my head here, but there you go. And in other government news this week on the cancelled projects, things are undone by an incoming government all the time. But this isn't, to me, just your everyday average change of government. It's a pretty pivotal time, whether you look at global situations or just our own in-house. So we better hope that cancelling, say, the hospital out on Kenmount Terrace, or renovating one that's more than a century old in St. Clair's, not to mention passing on the current MOU and gambling on a better one, when God knows when, with no timeline, is in our best interest. I mean, these are big stakes right now, and there's big gambling going on by the provincial government. These aren't small changes. These are large wholesale changes that change the complete direction of government. So whether or not we believe, those gambles are worth taking at this point when things are so in flux, and whether or not we should just take the money and run, and not have to saddle ourselves with more negotiations and more fights and more back and forth and more politics. There's a lot that could be relieved with settling the current MOU. And again, whether or not a referendum is held on that, again, what's the question? Apparently the Premier told me just a couple of weeks ago he hasn't even thought about what a question might look like, what it might sound like, or how it would be worded. It would seem to me that they could at least work on that or have some idea. So, let's just hope they're a lot farther along than they say, I guess. And on Harlow, I wanted to just quickly mention Harlow. I have some personal attachment to Harlow. Relative went there, and there's the nostalgia and there's the sentimental value and everything. But even to a man and a woman, I hear that it's sad. But I hear from a lot of former students and even current educators that say, it may have outlived its usefulness, and that given the financial strains, that the focus should be back on the actual campus here in the province, and that, and I look. This is all very top-level, high-level chat for me on Harlow. There are people out there who have a lot more, but I will just say that these are tough decisions, and while it is sad to see it go because the history is there, the sentimental and emotional attachment, of course. But I think that, when you're looking at $25 million and the other changes they're making here, it seemed like a no-brainer that it was probably going to happen. So on that note, if you want to discuss any of that stuff. And just quickly, let's go out west. And dare I say, south of the border. I had a call back on Monday, which really does feel like a month ago now, and it was about what's happening on the streets of Minneapolis, which incidentally is the name of Bruce Springsteen's new song, just written about all of this. Wrote it overnight. And, of course, it'll be a gem because it's the boss. And the caller was saying, this happened and that happened, like he was there. But all based on the videos the world has seen, the dozen or so angles, the photos that we've seen, I've seen. And just like any crime scene with video. And look, it was horrible. It's incredibly hard to watch. It's over the top. The guy clearly doing nothing. This is Mr. Preddy. To deserve the aggression from the ICE and Border Patrol, actually helping a couple of women who were also shoved unceremoniously to the ground. I mean, it's just natural. If I was there, I would have done the same thing. My God, what are you pushing on here? So clearly. And then the swarm, of Mr. Preddy, and at some point he is definitely shot to death. And it looks, and I stress looks, really bad, horrendous. Over the top reaction that killed the man right there. That's definitely what it looks like. Just like it looks like the woman, Renee Good, was unnecessarily shot to death, as it looked like she was trying to drive away. And so here's my conundrum. As a journalist for 35 years, I make no apologies for this, but I'm programmed to remain 100% objective about these things. And until it's properly investigated with all of the evidence, there's no judge and jury on that street right there and then. So with all of the evidence, which is the way I thought it's supposed to work. Silly me. And I know some don't want to wait. They want to be the judges and executioners and justice be damned, or that they don't trust the investigators. I get that too. But again, I make no apologies for remaining objective through all of this and not rushing to judgment about anything, because we didn't have all the evidence at the time when the shooting actually happened, and everybody rushed to judgment, including the Secretary of Homeland Security in the States and all officials and even the White House. And then Trump said he got bad information. Well, look, there's going to be bad information until it's properly investigated. And there's more coming forward all the time. We've even seen this week there's more information about Mr. Preddy, and there's more information about the patrol, the Border Patrol, and the ICE agents, and previous run-ins that Mr. Preddy had with agents. We didn't know that at the time of the shooting either, which may change some opinions. Who knows? And yes, it was ridiculous for the Homeland Security Secretary to go against all that, making false and outlandish claims. Apparently false claims about brandishing weapons, etc. We still don't know, for example, hypothetically, if the agents discovered the gun on Mr. Preddy, or did he reach for it, or in the scuffle, or did somebody else reach for it? We don't know. A lot we don't know. But it's got to work both ways. So neither can we say what happened until, in that shooting, was it a murder or something else? Manslaughter? People are throwing around the word murder. It's not murder until there's a conviction. That's actually a criminal conviction. Until then, it's a homicide. Murder is a criminal charge. And then it could become murder or become manslaughter, depending on all of the circumstances, which is why we have to wait, or we should wait, although it's hard to do it. I get it. In this day and age of video, live video on the spot, it's shocking, and it stops us in our tracks, and we have opinions. But, cooler heads and sobriety should prevail on this. What I can say about all this, the response by agents was over the top. And while it was his right to carry a gun, I'm not sure I would have brought a gun to that fight. And one other thing on Trump, I can't help but wonder, what the families of Newfoundlanders and Labradorians killed in Afghanistan thought of his comments about the Allies. I'm sure you heard these comments. Not, they didn't. Allies haven't. What have they done for us lately? Kind of thing. What, or what, they stayed back a little. I think were the words from Trump. Stayed back a little off the front. Yeah, tell that to the Pinksons, or tell that to Corporal Jamie Murphy, or tell that to some of the other grieving families in this province, that they stayed back from the front a little. I'd be interested to know how they feel. It's one of those judgment calls for a reporter, when it's okay to call a family about these sorts of things out of respect for their privacy, not politicize it. But, this venue is here, so I will just mention those comments, and certainly relatives of any families who were offended by that, I can imagine I would have been. And now it appears, Trump may be redirecting another review of the ballots for the 2020 election. And now he's targeting tariffs for Canadian aircraft manufacturers, the Bombardier stuff, threatening tariffs on that if we have any pushback over. And let's see. So enough of that. And just one other couple of quick mention. Pierre Poilievre will make his speech to Conservative faithful tonight in Calgary. I think it's around 10 o'clock our time, 6:30 Calgary time, 3.5 hour difference. He's going to make his speech to the Conservative convention in the midst of everything that's going on tonight. And there will also be a vote on his leadership. I don't think anyone believes he won't pass that test. They're saying, you need 50 plus 1. But I think the general consensus is anything less than 80%, and he's gone. But I think I've heard some commentators talk about the fix being in, that, who else would there be, and that he will, certainly pass the test tonight. The real big question on their minds, I think, for Conservative delegates and everyone else that's watching this drama play out, is what happens after the convention over the next couple of days, Will there be more floor crossings? I mean, one more can be a game changer with the majority government. So lots of questions there. The speech, as I said, 10 o'clock tonight, Pierre Poilievre will speak to the Calgary Convention. All right, Dave, I got a ton of what am I going to say? We'll talk, of course, anyone out in Badger. The dog attack in Pooch Cove, if you have any thoughts on that. I said it before, I'll say it again, and it's going to become ad nauseum, but it is the veritable fire hose of news, and I'm open to any and all of it, as much as I can catch on. As I said, it is a full-time job here, but while we're filling in, it's part-time work. So doing my best to stay on top of everything, but I don't mind being educated either. That's what this show is all about. The back and forth makes the show. All right, let's take that break, Dave. Brian Callahan in today on Open Line. Let's have your calls. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the program for this Friday. Let's just go right to line 2. And Margaret, you're on the air. Reg, you're on the air.
Yeah, go ahead.
I got 2 then.
I was confused there for a minute. How you doing, Brian?
So was I, Reg. I'm sorry, but my head's in a bit of a spin, as you can just appreciate.
Did you call me Margaret?
The best of Margaret, Reg. Why don't you tell us who Margaret is?
That's the wife.
That's the wife.
Margaret, but she's not on the line. I am. Anyway,
you got it.
How are you
doing? That's a loaded question. I'm doing okay. Yeah. So far, so good.
That's good. Well, you sound good, buddy. You're doing a great job. Now, listen, I'm going to be upfront and personal, I suppose, in a sort of a manner. I'm going to ask you a hypothetical question. Now, would it be fair to say that you're going to be the next man that we're going to be talking to? Or am I,
Reg,
or am I jumping the gun?
as I said off the top, I have no idea, no more than Paddy knows what he's going to do next. Neither do I. I mean, you're in these positions. There are people making a lot more money with a lot more important titles than me who will make that decision. And that's the best way to have it. You get a tap on the shoulder, you take it. I'm just happy and very fortunate and appreciative of the position I have here at VOCM that I've had for 5 years now. Going back, I mean, I've been a journalist for 35, but, the Telegram, and I've been with the Sieb and other media. But I have to say, the family here at VOCM is something else. So, the news this week really hit us all, not just professionally, but personally too. And I just can't tell you. I don't know what's going to happen. I take it a day by day, and with the amount of news that's in the hopper these days, Reg, you can appreciate that's all I have. My head space has time for.
Oh, for sure, my friend, for sure. No, like I said, no, listen, Brian, I mean, it hit me like a ton of brick. I've been on open line shows for a long, long time.
Yes, you have.
Ron Pomfrey and all them fellows, Randy Sims and Bill Rowe, and I mean, but hey, life is life, you got to move on sometimes, and maybe change is a good thing sometimes. And I hope all of this for Paddy, like I told him before he left, and God love him, and I hope everything that he works out for him, and if you're the next guy, so be it. But anyway, that's okay for now. Now listen, I just listened to the news again this morning, of course. Emergency, not a good situation there in Badger, and I know that things can be rough and what have you. And I got, now listen, I'm going to just put out this now to the town of, to the people of Badger. I'm a little distance away, but that's not a big deal. I got a 16-foot box truck here, all insulated box, ready to go. And if there's anything I can do within my power, I'm not doing it for any cost or anything like that. Just be a volunteer to help out those people, because I'm sure if it was in our situation, you can try to get all the help you need, and God knows what's going to happen then. We don't know yet, because things can get a lot worse. So I'm just passing that along to anyone that if they need my assistance to get hold of me, not a problem, and I'll do what I can to go pick up or do anything to help them out in any way I can, Brian.
Yeah, the beautiful value of open line, Reg, no question. We get calls on here, off here. With, anything like this happens, any of us brethren, fellow Newfoundlanders, Labradorians, or anywhere around the world are in trouble, boom, the calls come in and the offers come in, just like you're making right now. You're in Hare Bay, is that right, Reg?
I'm in Hare Bay, and I'm going to tell you something right now, Brian. It's too bad. Now, it wouldn't happen, I guess, in June or July when I got the chip wagon open, because I guarantee you now I'd be up to that one something quick, and I'd be gone across to Badger in a heartbeat. But, it is what it is. But I can give out my number, Brian. I got no issue there, my son, and if they need to call me for anything at all, I'll only be too glad to do what's in my power to help them out. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, Reg, and Dave Williams, of course, thank God he's still here. Dave will look after all that. Now, he has your number, but I think go for it. Just put out your number anyway, because it's fine for us to have it, but give people a moment here, 54321, a chance to grab a pen and paper or anything else to write down your number, just in case. You never know. We're going to do this for anybody who's in that kind of trouble, so go for it.
Yeah, well, that's it. Like I said, we're fellow Newfoundlanders. You got to do what you got to do. But anyway, the number 709, of course, 537-5616, and that's Ridge out near Bay.
537.
5616, buddy.
5616. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, we'll take any and all of it. Let's just hope. No offense to your. Appreciate the offer. Let's just hope none of it's needed. None of it's necessary. Everything subsides, gets back to normal. Yes. Thaw out, and we'll wait for the next one.
Yes, that's for sure. And by the way, before I go, I just thought I'd mention, I talked to a friend of yours. He's a good buddy of mine. His name is Brian, so I'm not going to say his last name, because I guess you don't know who I'm talking about. So he's living there in Hare Bay, and I think you work with him somewhere on the line. But I was talking another day, and I told him I talked to you. Actually, you heard me on the open line, so I just wanted to mention that to you. He's a good friend of yours, I think.
Yeah, and he's got a great name. He's got a great name.
Anyway, my son, you be good and take care. And if you're not the main man, I'll still look forward to talking to you when you fill in, and not taking anything away from Linda. She's a great girl too, and God love you all. And thanks, and thanks go to VOCM, because without you people, I tell you, I don't know what we do. Anyway, take care, my friend, and have a good one.
Thank you, Reg. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger.
Okay. Okay, my buddy.
Thanks,
Take
man.
care.
Okay. It's Reg. And look, echo what Reg said there. Linda got thrown into it on Wednesday morning, the first show after. And that's not a derogatory to Patty or anything. This just happened this week, and that's it. But Linda had to shoulder the show on the first day after, and you want to talk about a machine. The only thing I would say about Linda is I don't know what the newsroom would do if Linda took the show. That's all I know. So that's where I'll leave that right now. And I've got a sense she might be perfectly happy where she is. But, hey, I'll leave that to Linda to decide. Dave, are we over break? Yeah, quick break, and back with Carl. And welcome back to the show. It's just stay right with our callers. Let's go to line one. And Carl, you're on the air.
Hey, good morning, Brian. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you?
Marvelous.
Excellent. For a Friday, does that have anything to do with it, or are you just... Marvelous is a good thing to be these days.
Oh, God, yes. It's a wonderful time. Like you say, in Newfoundland, there's lots of great things going on, and some things that are not so good. But like you say, we march forward.
Live in interesting times, absolutely.
I appreciate your comments, or your repeat of comments from Patty about being kind and being less, I guess, political in some of the commentary, and I appreciate that advice, and I'm going to try to take it into my life.
Yeah,
the problem that I want to talk to you about... Oh, go ahead.
No, you know what? I'm not going to miss an opportunity to reiterate since you brought it up, but I just think it gets away from people. And sometimes you have to have a little bit more of a self-awareness about, how your comments affect other people. And you would think it's common sense, but it doesn't really register with a lot of people. It's the willy-nilly, I'm just going to say it and move on, and there's no aftermath. And there's always an aftermath. So, and it's unnecessary. Carl, some of the stuff is just unnecessary. You can, I'm not going to get in any specifics. I got a comment earlier the week, it was only one, but still. And you can dismiss it, and you can't engage, because then it's going to come back even louder with more exclamation points and more capital letters. But, I went through it and I removed all of the insulting descriptions, the name calling, the juvenile. And I say juvenile, we talk about our kids calling people names. Oh my God, as adults, can we just give it a rest? Like, why is it necessary for an F-bomb to be in every second letter or every sentence of every paragraph you speak? I just don't get it. And you know what? Ultimately, people want their words to have an impact and effect. It doesn't when that kind of stuff is added to it. If you can keep to the fact and keep to the points, instead of yelling and screaming and bawling and bitching and all the rest of it, you might just make a little bit more of an impact with what you want to get across. People might actually hear what you're saying. Anyway, sorry, I had to get that. Go for it.
No, God love you, and I appreciate that. And that sentiment is wonderful, and I'm going to add it to my repertoire of tools going forward.
Good for.
So I called you today, and I've called in the past several times to speak about the situation at the Fortune Head Ecological Reserve.
Yeah.
Down on the Bjorn Peninsula.
I mean, that's
a liberal problem.
That is a massive treasure. I think it's only like one of three, I think, in the world of like the Cambrian boundary stratotype that I think is Russia maybe and China, and there's us. And apparently that formation down on the southwest coast is near Fortune that's a jewel. So sorry, I just wanted to. As a journalist, I remember doing a few stories on it, and just go for it.
Listen, I appreciate you saying that, because that's something that's very true, very important. And, your reference, there was a decision made between China, a location in China, a location in Russia, and a location here on the Bjorn Peninsula. The decision was made that the location on the Bjorn Peninsula at that Fortune Head Ecological Reserve is the best, most accessible, but the best representation of the transition in life, in animal life, from the Ediacaran period to the Cambrian period. The Cambrian period, the explosion of life, this is what Fortune Head is all about. But unfortunately, we got a mess down here. And I'll just back up for a second and just say, this is not a liberal problem. This is not a conservative problem. This is not a province, not a Bjorn Peninsula problem. This is not a problem for the town of Fortune. The town of Fortune has nothing to do with this. This is a problem for the province. So just to be clear of that. And there's wonderful things that's been done. Like everything. It takes a lot of work to move through government, and I appreciate, and I've said, and I will thank anybody who puts their shoulder to the wheel to help straighten this up. But, unfortunately, today and every day, and I've been repeating these words for about 3.5 years, today and every day, domestic garbage rolls down the cliff into the ocean from an ecological reserve operated by the entity, not the people, the entity of the Department of the Environment of the province of Newfoundland. Unfortunate, ironic, pick one. Either way, you mentioned the way we talk to our kids. We tell our kids, don't litter. We run programs, tell the kids, don't litter. What do we do as a government, as a society? We watch as, I'm not joking, I'm serious, that there's been hundreds, plural, of tons of domestic garbage fall down in that hole. There's pictures, video, all that stuff. I can show it to you, but what difference do it make? Because here we are right now in January 2026. So whatever happened in the past, it happened in the past. And some people in government and outside of government have said that this site is a representation of the terrible practices of the past. That is not the case. Today, that site is a terrible representation of the practices of the present. At present, Government of Newfoundland, Department of the Environment, is well aware that there's hundreds of tons of garbage found down into the ocean. The Government of Canada, the Department of the Environment of the Government of Canada, knows that there's hundreds of tons of garbage going down into the Atlantic Ocean. At that site, the site is owned, managed, operated, controlled by the province of Newfoundland. The Government of Canada also has a footprint out there. They got a lighthouse out there that's manned and operated and been operating. I'm not sure how it operates these days, but over the last 30 years, 40 years, they've had presence here. And I have, and other people have, sent information to the Government of Canada and told them hundreds of tons of garbage going down into the Atlantic Ocean, down into the fish habitat, down into the ocean, into the environment. Windy days, bags of garbage bags, plastic, anything that can blow away. We're on the Bureau Peninsula, Newfoundland. Lots of wind down here. When it blows, it takes the clothes off the line, but also hauls the garbage up into that and blows it up in the woods. So the scene that I'm painting for you is as true as can be. And if anybody, in the time that I've been arguing, complaining about this, I've had 0 people say that this is acceptable. So it's unacceptable. Here we are in January.
Carol, I think just off the top of my head, what we have here, I'm tempted to say is a failure to communicate, but no, what we have here is an out of sight, out of mind problem. I mean, you can look at the example of, when they started going into some of the harbors around the province and finding out that these were actually the landfills for some of these communities, and they continued to be because it's easy to dump it in the water. Nobody sees it. It's out of sight, out of mind, boom. And that goes for wherever. If it's underwater, if the water was clear and we could see all the garbage and the tires and the wrecks and a fridge maybe and a stove and who knows what else is tossed into the water, that's a problem. It's a problem all around this province, and even more so when you get a jewel like this of what's been determined to be a once in a universe or in this earth formation. it's hard to get your head around 540 million years ago, but when you look at some of these, you can tell just by looking at the rock that it's just incredible. And there's a reason why it became that special reserve. And again, it's out of sight, out of mind. It's dumped. It's down in a hole. It's under the water. You can't see it. Who cares?
Unfortunately, listen, I agree with that, but I got to disagree with that in this case because the specific detail is If it was under the water, I'm sure I wouldn't see it. Nobody'd see it. That'd be terrible, horrible, horrible as environmental stewards, no doubt about that. But in this case, make it worse. There's a cliff. I'm going to say she's 120 feet high. It's garbage from top to bottom, exposed to your eyeballs.
Where's the
video camera?
Where's that coming from? Where's it coming from specifically, Carl? Where do you think?
Okay, that's where I was heading. So I'll give you the Cole's notes of this situation. In the 1950s, 60s, 70s, the town of Fortune used a location on the coastline as a municipal dump. And as you mentioned, this was done all over Newfoundland, nothing exclusive. But in this case, the town of Fortune dumped their garbage into this location very next to the ocean. Of course, they pushed it into the ocean, and of course, it was acceptable to the standards of that day. In the 1990s, the government became aware of the geological features of this piece of the coastline, and sadly, unfortunately, it was only 100 meters or so from the previous dump site operated by the town of Fortune. At that time, the government of Newfoundland, in 1992, gave the town of Fortune $50,000. They took the $50,000 and went out and covered this dump up and made it suitable to the rules of the day, but also suitable to the satisfaction of the government of Newfoundland. Government of Newfoundland enacted legislation and declared this site an ecological reserve. They took in 2.2 square kilometers, including this dump site, including this geological feature, including a lighthouse. Beautiful place at that time. They came down, took a few pictures, had great conversations about the future tourism here on the Burin Peninsula. In 1992, they went away. They never done nothing with this since, as far as I can see. But I haven't had anybody debate that point. I've said this many times. Maybe they did something 30 years ago, 40 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. I guarantee you they never done nothing with it the last 5 years, because I've been out there regularly.
Carl, only because...
I challenge anybody, including some of the folks from the department who came out there, show me something that's been done here in the last decade. And the answer is nothing. But anyway, like everything.
Yeah, no, listen, and it's an important story, it's an important issue. Look forward to, getting all sides of this, hear from the town and what's been done, and what they feel like, whether or not this is an important issue for them. Certainly. I just appreciate you raising it this morning, only because of the time on the clock. I'm trying to get my head around all the breaks here and that sort of thing. So I appreciate the call, Carl. Listen, I'm told, and it's no secret, that I'm here all next week. So if you want to continue the conversation, by all means, give us a shout again. I'm sorry about the time now, but we'll have to say goodbye and talk again soon, and we'll pick it up right where you left off.
No, nothing to it. I really appreciate it. I sent you a couple of videos. Look
yes,
at them.
I was going to ask you off the top just to send us. Well, I certainly will.
You give her. God love you. Thanks for your time. Good luck with your job.
Thank you, Carl, very much. Really appreciate it. Have a great weekend.
Let's go.
Thanks. All right, Dave, sorry, buddy. Let's take that break. Back to the program. As I mentioned there off the top, actually, almost an hour ago now, the provincial government, of course, has the new government has scrapped many of the infrastructure projects that were announced by the Liberal government. A lot of allegations or criticisms that there was not funded out and it wasn't costed and that sort of thing. I mean, I think we can all agree that, there were certainly thoughts that the MOU might solve some of our financial problems, and maybe that's where the Liberal government was looking forward. But in any event, I've gotten lots of calls on different... I mentioned St. Clair's this morning. Look, I mean, before I even talk healthcare, I always want to preface it with the caveat that, this is never about the healthcare staff, the resources, the people who have to face us when we go in some of our hardest moments. What's the emergency department for if it's not an emergency? And so, whether they're meeting us on the front lines there at the wicket or whether or not it's on the floor, look, this is never about the staff and the work that they do. You don't get into this business, especially healthcare, unless you have a heart for it. And I don't think that ever goes away. So, whenever we talk about this in a facility or a healthcare and how good or bad it is, it's never about the people delivering it. We just need more of them. And then we need more of openness and transparency about the facilities. Now, specifically with regard to St. Clair's, I got a couple of emails on that this morning to myself and to Open Line. And again, I will check Open Line. Dave's handling the Open Line email there, so we will take those today, and he'll pass on whatever is relevant so I can get up to speed on it on the fly here. But people talking about, this week even at St. Clair's, 2 or 3 elevators have been out and out of use. As of Thursday, I think only one was working yesterday. And of course, and this emailer says that there were problems even just selecting the right floor in the elevator, which, you never want to, I'm not a claustrophobic person, but in a big building, I'm always a little uneasy going up 40, 50 floors, and I get in the back of my mind as a claustrophobic, God, I hope we never get stuck. But I'm not saying that's what's happening here. And, you used to have the certificates in the elevators. They used to give you the expiry dates for the inspections and that sort of thing. That doesn't really happen anymore. You got to kind of call a number and see if that's up to date. But this emailer says 2 or 3 that elevators are a problem all this week at St. Clair's, and probably not just this week. So asking about safety issues there. I mean, can a building like that be renovated? I suppose it can be. It's back to the 1920s, early 1920s. So, the original structure, I mean, that's not quite Waterford Hospital vintage, 1958, 59, but it's still an old building by our standards. So, So those issues, if you want to comment on any of that, I'm all ears. Let's see, Dave, what was I going to go? Oh, and one more funny one, kind of cute. Not funny, really. Certainly not funny for Tom Babcock over at the Hub, but he mentions that, he spoke a few times and to Eastern Health, that the people who named the new facility, the new health facility down on Stavanger Drive, the old Costco, calling it the Hub, has created a lot of problems for the Hub on Mary Meeting Road that we all know and love. And that creates all these, we all know the great job that the people at the Hub do through Tom Babcock and others. For those who are less mobile and less avail of things. So, that's causing a bit of a headache there. So apparently they're getting all kinds of calls on a daily basis, of people, and people even dropping in thinking that that's the Hub. Whereas, nope. So we have 2 hubs, and somehow we got to be able to say which is which, or maybe there's another little name they can put on it. But yeah, the Hub sort of had license to that long before the one down at Stavanger. So you can see why that's causing a few headaches. So thanks to Tom for that. And we're right at the news. So let's take the news break, and we'll talk to you right after the news. And welcome back to the show. Brian Callahan in today on this Friday. Quick note from a listener who has a little bit of an issue going on. So, help needed. There's a lost goalie bag on the road somewhere. If you're out on the roads right now, heads up between Kelsey Drive and McDonald Drive Junior High. So, got a note that just said our 10-year-old son's goalie bag fell out of the box of our truck minutes ago, somewhere between Home Depot on Kelsey Drive and McDonald Drive Junior High. Now, I don't know the route they took after leaving Kelsey, but it's probably down toward Thorburn Road that way. In any event, if you're out on the roads and you happen to be in that neck of the woods, anywhere between, say, Kelsey Drive, so there, let's see, is that by the Home Depot? Yeah. Between the Home Depot on Kelsey Drive and McDonald Drive Junior High. That's all I got. And we've got a number here. You can call here, VOCM, of course, if you happen to find this, but also I'll give out the number. It's 438-350-8182. And again, you can call here to VOCM line, open line, and Dave will pass it on as well if you need that number again. But otherwise, if you're in that area, you see a hockey bag, I'm sure it's not just a keys we're looking for here. It's a hockey bag, and it's a goalie bag, which of course I can relate to because that's all I lugged around for about 10 years of my youth. Never could fit the pads inside, so I had like the bag over one shoulder and the pads over the other and the hockey stick in the other. And I'm, 5'7", soaking wet. So it was always a workout in itself. But anyway, I can relate to a lost goalie bag. So hopefully we can help these people out. 438-350-8182. And if you didn't get the number and you didn't have something to write it down, 709-273-5211, 1-888-590-8626 can get you us, and we'll pass on that number to you. Let us go to a very patient Verna on line 2. Verna, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going.
I'm calling. Guess what I'm calling about?
I'm going to go out on a limb. No, I can't say it. It says here ferry, Belle Island Ferry. Bring it on.
Well, I don't know if you're aware. I'll give you a little update. As it stands right now, the TICO, the Belle Island Ferry from Portugal Code to Belle Island, right now we have in operation the Legionnaire, and I will put strong emphasis on the Astron as the second vessel. This Astron is not made, well, it's number one, it's not made for Fogo. So they send it here to put it on the TICO to operate. I mean, I feel sorry for they are lovely people that work on that boat, and it's privately owned, and we lease it, or I should say the province ferry service leases it as a swing vessel. Or depending on who you're talking to, they say it's a second vessel for Fogo. But anyway, Wednesday evening, we get emergency call. And, okay, sorry about that. But when they put the Astron out here for the run, it's using the same jog as the Legionnaire. So if the Legionnaire isn't running, the Astron can't run because it doesn't have the jog to go into. So it has to be tied up. The Astron has to be tied up in either Long Pond or Bay Roberts. And like I say, it's more times not running than it is running. And the reason it is here is because the Beaumont is gone now. I don't know if it's gone for a repair or maintenance, but 3+ months the Beaumont has been here as our second vessel with the Legionnaire, and that has been doing maybe 25% of the schedule because it has bow thruster issues. And the captains do not feel comfortable doing their trips. But when they say don't know, because of weather conditions forthcoming, and it could be 2 days down the road, they'll turn around and take it off the schedule, run 20 minutes. Can't run because of forthcoming, but they'll turn around and send it to Bay Roberts to put it in dock because they don't want to put it in Long Pond, or they don't have room in Long Pond, so they'll put it in Bay Roberts. So anyway, that's what we were dealing with before the Astron came now. So now we're down to one boat schedule that we're guaranteed. So we went from having, with 2 boats, we have 14 trips per day. Now we're down to 11 trips today. And we really, really appreciate the Legionnaire, the crew. We couldn't ask for better because even when we've had these weather conditions, they've went over and above. And it's not the crew of the Astron's fault either. It's the blame of the management, of the government, of the Department of Transportation Infrastructure. It is lack of qualifications, experience, and the knowledge to run these services properly. So Wednesday, we have emergency run, which means the Legionnaire has to go. An emergency run is because somebody has been sick, injured, or whatever, has to go to town, to the hospital. And right now, we have more times than enough virtual doctor in our emergency department. So most times, it's somebody that is analyzing you and triaging you from town. So if you have any inline issues, we don't have a doctor here. So anything that's not a cut that got to be stitched or whatever, it's got to go to town. So now we're down to one boat, which the last boat is 8:30 from Belle Island. So this emergency took place after 8:30. So that means this boat had to go out on its rest period. So now the boat cannot run the next morning at 5:30 because it has to have rest period. So 8 o'clock the next morning before it's going to run. So that means the people that have to go to work that depend on this boat starting up at 5:30 in the morning, now it's not starting up to 8 o'clock. So all these people who have to work in town have to go and tell their employers that I can't be there for 2.5 hours late. How long is your job going to last? Did the government put this in place? This is the schedule, and this is the plan that the government has, that they want people to work in Newfoundland, to pay taxes. But yet they don't want to give you a highway or a road, because that's what our boat is, to get there. Can you verify tomorrow that all the roads for you to get to work or the next 3 days, this is the schedule you got. Now you tell your boss that you're going to be 2.5 hours late. And by the way, because the boat is now running on a condensed schedule, I've got to leave an hour and a half early. Because the boat no longer leaves at 20 after 10 in the night now. It leaves at 9:15. It doesn't make sense. The government wants to make money, and there's people that are reaching out to say, we can help to fix this. To the government, the new government, the PC government, and saying, look, we have the qualifications, we have the experience, we have the know-how to help you to fix your problems that you have with your aging ferries, to give public the communication they deserve and they need, and we can help to save you money in the meantime. And when this boat does not run, that means we do not have teachers, the kids can't go to school, we do not have nurses, we do not have doctors coming over here. So we don't have the health care. We don't have the boat to go over for people with surgeries, doctor's appointments, cancer treatments, dialysis. We no longer have it. So it's affecting us not only because we can't go to town to shop, to get groceries, and also we can't get our gas over to here. We can't get our oil over here. These are all essential services, Patty. I'm sorry, Brian.
That's okay. And
these university students who are going to get education, they can't get there either. And it's all brought on by the government-run service, essential service.
Verna, everything old is new again, isn't it? I mean, I could look back through history and our stories that we've written. Same problems last year, same problems before that, same problems before that. Now, of course, the new government has talked about new ferries. I heard Minister Petton mention this week they're looking into it. They're discussing. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but that's costly. So we're talking they're all talking about 4 new ferries. The latest I understood was the Beaumont Hamel, of course, came out of service some point early in January, and that was supposed to be for several weeks, but they didn't nail down the exact time. I know the Astron was there to replace the Beaumont.
Yeah, the Flange has been gone since September.
Yeah, no, but I mean...
that was supposed to be 2 months. Yeah,
the Beaumont Hamel. Yep.
Yeah, the Beaumont is supposed to be something to do with the bow thrusters, which has been an ongoing issue for the last 12-plus years. There's supposed to be a makeshift device that's supposed to help with this problem. So the captains don't feel comfortable with this problem that may happen once a month, once a year, once every couple of years, but because certain captains know that it's going to happen, I'm not doing it.
And the Flanders, I can tell you, is not expected back till the middle of February. I think that was the latest update.
Well, it was supposed to be, like I say, it left September. That was supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks. So, I mean, throwing numbers at us is almost like Trump the next 2 weeks. So this is what we're up against.
Yeah, it's a constant uncertainty. I mean, if you live on Bell Island, you're expected to take this into consideration, and make it an issue.
I understand. I understand.
And I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying it's a reality that, if I had a job there, I'd probably go right to the employer and saying, here's my reality, and try to get ahead of it, even though the unpredictability is out of this world.
But the unpredictability has gotten worse. Like, I moved here 29 years ago. And I was more to get to my job than people that lived in town. And I'll be honest with you, more times my boss would say to somebody, no, it's no excuse. Verna's here, and you're saying you can't get there? Now, in regards to, like, Mr. Patton, they have been people who are qualified and have more experience than enough. And Aaron Mulroney, he has reached out to them to tell them that, look, I'm offering my service to you guys to help you with your problems, help you with your issues. I mean, Brian, the bottom line is, until we change the management in the Confederation building, we've had a protest, we've done it all. I mean, it has changed now from Liberal to PC, because when we had the Liberals in there, they looked down at us, didn't even bother to come out to talk to us. And I mean, the thing is, they're paying for a service that we're not getting. They're paying for repairs that are not happening. It's like you calling and saying, my TV's not working, and they send a plumber. Enough is enough. And I mean, Mr. Patton, I've reached out to him. I've asked him, Mr. Patton, can you tell me, or that one question, simple question, why forthcoming forecast of weather that's going to happen, that should happen, say 2 o'clock in the morning, but 3:30 in the afternoon, you shut down a boat. But the other boat is still running. It's not feasible. Oh, we take every precaution possible. I understand it. But why is it good for the goose but not good for the gander? Why would they take the Beaumont off and send it to Ray Roberts at 3:30 in the afternoon, leave the Legionnaire here, and run it? And then the Legionnaire is left here going back and forth in the tickle because it can't stay in the pound. That's not an acceptable answer. I'm not stupid, but I'm not qualified. I'm not educated for marine services. But I'm time for them to put somebody in there who is and can help them. And why are they ignoring these people that are reaching out with their resumes, qualifications? Why are they still leaving these same people that have been there 10-plus years failing? The proof is important.
Good questions for all of the powers that be, Verna. And
I hope Mr. Patton can get on and answer my questions today. I heard he got on yesterday,
sure,
but they weren't proper answers either.
And I'm no engineer either, but I know I'm well over the break. So, look, point taken. This issue, again, never going away. As long as that tickle is there, and it's a tangly tango, I can tell you that, of the ships coming back and forth and which ferries are on and which ones aren't, which one's going to swing, which one's going to change islands. It's hard to keep track unless you're affected by it, and God knows you're keeping...
Change the management, and we can change our service.
Verna, thanks for your call.
Thank you. Okay. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
All right, Dave, let's take that break. Come back to the program. Let's go right to line 3, and Sam, you're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
Morning. I'm okay for a Friday.
Oh, good, like all of us. Brian, I want to go back in history, and I believe that your family owned the Evening Telegram, the Daily News years ago.
That's correct.
Okay. Well, in 1973, I was working on a Blue Peter boat, Blue Peter II. We came in here we left Greenland, and we ran into a big storm. So the boat got all iced up and everything. And then we lost engine power somewhere out in the mid-Atlantic. And we were drifting around for 2 or 3 days out there with no communications or anything, because everything was knocked out. With the ice built up on the boat. And after the Coast Guard flew over us after a few days, looking for us, and we ended up, they thought we were just an iceberg. That's how bad the boat was iced up. So finally somebody came across us. We got some kind of communications, and we got towed back in here to St. John's. And when the boat came in, when we finally got in here, tied up down on the waterfront, the Coast Guard would only allow one person at a time down the gangway, because the boat was dead unstable. And if she had to have another bit of ice built up on her, she would have rolled over. So those pictures I remember seeing in I think it was the Daily News, and I've been searching for years trying to get a picture of that boat with all the ice on her that when she was here in St. John's. So I was just wondering, with your family, if there's any history or stories where a person could look to see if I could come across that picture.
That is a good question. So 73, I would have been 6. So I wouldn't necessarily remember it off the top of my head. I do know that I can tell you 2 places that you know for sure that you could go. First would be the Mun Digital Archives. I know they have historic photos there, and a lot of our pages, a lot of the Daily News, the old, the original pages were on these slap sheets, and they were hung over. We saved them all, and the holes were punched in, and we kept them hanging, and they turned yellow after a while. But a lot of these are preserved in good shape. Various episodes, various editions, such as the final one, the Goodbye edition back in '85. But that would be my first stop. I mean, the rooms and the Mun Digital Archives. I know the Mun Digital Archives have some. Whether the photos were extracted from our Daily News pages or whether or not they're original photographs. There's some old black and whites down in the harbour and other places. But wow, the thing that stuck out to me was they thought you were an iceberg just because of the amount of ice that was caked on the vessel, and that's a visual, to say the least.
Yeah, because that was in January the 9th that we got in here in St. John's, and that was in 73.
That must have been a relief.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know something? I was after leaving home at that time. I think I was only around 17 or 18, right full of piss and vinegar, I guess, and hitchhiking to St. John's. And ended up getting a job on that boat, the Blue Peter II.
Wow, who picked you up?
That's a long...
You hitchhiked in. That must have been not like hitchhiking today, but who gave you a ride?
Boy, I'm not sure. There was, I think there was a guy from Bonavester, right, coming into St. John's. He picked me up in on Kingscove Road, and I was lucky, got a ride all the way in.
Simple things, right? Could always change the course of your history.
Yes, indeed. Yeah. So it was, like I say, right? It was quite the adventure.
I don't know if you've tried that. Have you, like the Mun, or have you tried Mun or the rooms yet?
I think not the rooms, but I think my daughter was trying to find a picture of it for me, right? So I'm not sure where she'd been looking, because she's the one with all the computer skills, not me.
Well, and, to the best of my knowledge, the Queenie II Elizabeth, the Queen Elizabeth II Library has not been divested, so that should still be in our hands. And I remember the old, just going off on a tangent here, I remember the old urban myth that they built it backwards and the sun didn't come into the right way and they didn't have the right sun exposure. All a myth, but a funny one, just a funny anecdote.
Oh, yes, indeed, yeah. Well, I appreciate your time this morning, then. So if there's anybody out there that might have a picture of the Blue Peter II down on the waterfront, all iced up and everything after been towed in, I appreciate it if they'd call and just leave a message for me, and or I could even put my phone number out there.
Sure, go for it.
Don't matter to me, right? Okay, 709-631-3466. And I would appreciate any information on that, because I know the captain on the boat at that time was Peter Parsons, and Vince Collins was the chief mate on her. And
are the boys still around? Any of those boys still around?
I know that the captain is not. He's quite a good many years. And but Vince Collins, the chief mate, he used to be harbour pilot. I'm not sure what happened to if he's around or not. Right?
Well, I can see why this would.
Else might have been there.
Yeah, I can see how this would be of great sentimental value to you, just to see a picture of that vessel. That so many years ago, 40, 50, let's see, 60 years ago, 53 years ago now. Just to be able to see. Have you ever seen an image of it the way you remember it?
Down in the Blue Peter office, I'm after checking with some relations there. They used to have a picture when you walk in their office right on the main wall of the boat. I can picture that picture all the time, right?
Yep.
But I can never find anybody where they closed up and everything, right?
Gotcha.
So they tried to get the connection. Anybody that I found out that would have any idea about it, they've been deceased, right, for years too, right?
Yep, a few years have passed. Few years under the bridge. Sam, look, you put your number out there. Dave's got your number here, and you've thrown it out there, which is what Open Line is for. Let's see if we get any calls, and by all means, follow up and let us know.
Yes, indeed. Okay, and I appreciate you taking the call for us.
And I appreciate you just throwing out the shout out to the old Daily News. Boy, that was a that was a time. That was a time for our family, I can tell you.
Oh boy, I tell you, you'd pick up Daily News and you look for the jobs in the back. There'd always be a page.
My destiny,
jobs there.
My destiny was sort of paved for me after that. Growing up in a household that owned a newspaper, I don't think I had much choice where I was headed.
Indeed. Well, okay, then thanks a million for everything.
Thanks, Sam. Appreciate the call. Take care. And again, let us know if you have any luck.
Indeed, I will. All right.
Good stuff. Okay, thanks.
Bye.
All right, Dave, let's take that break. And welcome back to the show. Let's just go right to line number 2. And Juanita, you're on the air.
Hi there.
Good morning, Juanita. Just for our listeners, so your daughter was one of the people who were, your father was one of the people who was injured by those dogs in Pooch Cove the other day.
Yes, it was my father, yeah.
So the floor is yours.
Okay, well, I just wanted to clear the air and just let everyone know. My dad is doing okay. I've seen a lot of comments online, and people don't understand how serious this is. He has life-changing injuries here. He sustained injuries to both arms. They were literally ripped to shreds. And he is bandaged up. He's still in the hospital. He had emergency surgery right away to repair some of the damage. Unfortunately, there's some stuff that they can't fix. And he will need plastic surgery down the road to fix the rest of it if he's up for that. He is a 76-year-old man after all. He's very active, but this is life-changing, and I just want everyone to realize this. It's just so serious. It's so senseless, and this should not have happened. It was a random attack. I don't blame the dogs. They were a large breed dog, and people are talking about what kind of dogs they were. It doesn't matter. You can train a dog to be good or bad. It depends on the owners, and I just wanted to stress that also. But I just want to let everyone know that my dad is doing okay. This has been traumatizing for my mom, and it's going to be a lot for her to get over it. And that's basically it. I just wanted to reach out and thank everyone who has reached out to me. I have had hundreds of messages, and I haven't even been able to get back to everyone. People offering to snowplow for my dad and do stuff like that, and I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who's reached out. And I also wanted to let people know there are a couple of heroes in this situation. Josh Meehan is one of them. And Dad's next door neighbor and his good buddy, Bob Rexon, is the other one. If it wasn't for Bob trying to beat these dogs off with a shovel, my dad would be so much worse right now, or not here at all. The dogs turned around and attacked Bob also, and he sustained injuries and he needed stitches. But he was there he did what he could. I mean, that man is also in his 70s. And then Josh Meehan, there was a couple of other people who stopped in vehicles who got out to help, and they also got bit. And the owner or the lady taking care of the dogs ran down the road with leashes to try to get these dogs, and she also got bit. She was attacked by these dogs that she is taking care of. But Josh Meehan came out on his bike, and he shooed those dogs away and got them clear enough so that my dad could get up and go down to the house and somebody could call 911. So they're both heroes.
Juanita, I can't imagine the traumatic incident that would have unfolded. Can you, for people who are just, and I'm always, uber aware of this, people may know exactly what, you can't always assume that everybody knows exactly what we're talking about. Can you take us back to what day and time of day that this occurred?
So, I don't even realize what day today is. I think it was Wednesday. It was a day and a half ago. It was 1 o'clock in the day. My dad went out to snow blow, just like he normally does, going out to clean on and off his land as everyone, there was so many people out snow plowing and shoveling. My dad went up to do that, and the dogs lived in the house that was just up the road from my dad's place.
And you're familiar with
literally.
Yeah, so they're not.
I'm familiar with the area. Yeah.
And you're familiar, I guess, with the dogs as well. They're not, shall we say, strangers to the area.
No. And I am not familiar with these dogs.
Okay.
These dogs are aggressive dogs because they were raised that way. I have had people tell me stories about other attacks by these dogs. The owners and the people taking care of these dogs knew they were dangerous. And there have been many incidences where the RNC was called and where the town was called about these dogs, complaints made. People are telling me they're afraid to walk down the road around where those dogs are. It was absolute neglect. Don't get me wrong there. It was absolute neglect. The dogs should not have been out. They were, as far as I know, just put out on a deck to, I don't know, maybe do their business, whatever they were doing.
Are they usually out? Like, how often do you see them off that property?
Well, the person who was taking care of them, from what I'm told, people have seen her in the neighborhood walking the dogs. And she's, no offense to her, but she's not a big person. So, and these are two very strong dogs. If she had them out walking them, and she did many times, she should have had them muzzled. She knew they were dangerous. So anyone walking up and down the road, if she would pass them, the dogs would try to attack those people. And I know that because those people message me to tell me their stories. One story was, this lady went to the dog park with her dog, and this was in the town of Pooch Cove. When she got there, those two dogs were in the dog park playing or, just by themselves. And the person who was watching those dogs and had them there just was sat in her car. And when she seen somebody else pull up, she got out to say, no, stay in your car. I have to get my dogs out of there first because they are aggressive. Yep. So they knew that.
Yeah, that's an awareness on the owner that has to be relayed all the time. And look, if you know at all that they're in any way aggressive like that, if leashes aren't part of the equation, then they shouldn't be out anywhere. We all still run, into people who are on a walking trail and they'll say, and the dog is off leash. Happened to me last week right next to my house downtown. And the dog was about 30, 40 feet ahead of the owner. Not a lot of people around. It was pretty early. It was around 7 a.m., but by the same token, you can't just assume that everything. There's a reason that city bylaw is in place on leash. And I don't care how often and how friendly you think your dog is to you, how they're going to react to a stranger is completely unpredictable. And in a case like this, I know no charges have been laid or anything like that. We don't want to jump to conclusions. Again, as I said off the top, as a journalist first, I'm always 100% objective about anything until I know or have something that's been proven to be true, as in proof or evidence. We know what happened here. The question is, and there are certain things that are undeniable. The dogs were off leash. They shouldn't be off leash. They attacked someone. They shouldn't be attacking someone. I will say this, and you're absolutely right, and the point has to be made first and foremost that these dogs and aggressive dogs are usually a product of the owner's aggression themselves. And that's usually the case. There are, however, such things as bad dogs. There are, just like there are bad people. So I don't want to discount that altogether either. And it doesn't have to be a mean or a big breed. And I'm not going to mention the breeds because I think that's important not to be sidetracked by the larger issue here. So whether or not it was one of the breeds that you think are infamous and famous for doing these kinds of things, the point is it happened. It sounds like, by all accounts, given the history, it was preventable. And now we have to let the chips fall where they may, and hopefully there'll be some action taken where, to prevent it. But it should also be a massive lesson for other people, other dog owners, you're so lucky, and I think your dad is so lucky that, as you said, without some help there, this could have been just completely tragic, and you could be without your dad right now. Over a couple of wild, aggressive dogs is just unthinkable. And just that mauling, that incident, I can't imagine how terrifying and traumatic it must have been. I just can't.
Absolutely. Visiting my dad, being with my dad in the hospital. I mean, he's making jokes. The nurses are getting a kick out of him. He's jolly old dad. That's just how he is.
Yeah.
But my mom, my mom is a strong woman, and she's endured a lot these past couple of months. Yeah. We're also the family that had the house fire up on Shea Heights there recently, where my brother lost absolutely everything. So this happened, Jeez. 2.5 weeks ago, and now this happened. So, and a lot of the stuff falls on the moms. I don't care what anybody says.
Oh,
no offense to the dads, but the moms take on a lot. And my mom is taking on a lot right now, and this has changed her. She is traumatized by this and what she's seen. I physically did not see my dad's arms, and I don't want to see them the way that they were. I have pictures of them bandaged up and stuff like that, but I didn't see that. My mom did. And it's just horrifying. And
just to be clear for people again, the dogs were put down by the RNC. You mentioned your dad, good spirits and keeping the staff up there in good spirits as well. That's what dads do too. I'm sure part of that is your mom and trying to help her through this. Even though he was the victim, I'm sure everything he's doing is well aware of how your mom is taking this, and I'd say that goes a long way to what he's doing there. Juanita, anything else you...
The last words...
So,
yeah, sorry. The last words he said to me, when he had his surgery, emergency surgery, when we seen him after the surgery and everyone left the room and I was in the room with him, and the last thing he said to me was, "Don't let your mom worry too much. I'll be okay. Just make sure she's okay."
Gives me goosebumps, Juanita, because that's exactly what my dad would have said, and most dads would have said. Take it on the chin, shoulder it yourself, and make sure you protect your family.
Exactly, yeah.
Juanita, I wish you enough. Go ahead if you have any last message.
Sorry. I just wanted to thank everyone involved. I want to thank the Puchco Fire Department. Those guys are always heroes. They're amazing. And I just want to thank Josh Meehan and Bob Rexon. I truly believe my dad would not be here today if it wasn't for those two guys. And then the other guys that helped, that stopped by to help. And I hope they're healing okay. And I hope everyone can get past this. And I hope the community can stay strong and come together for this. Because it is a good community. Everyone helps out when they can help out.
And Juanita, you yourself, give yourself some kind of kudo, because, to be able to call articulately and express what's going on with your family, express what you went through, is so important for people to hear. It's one thing just to see it in the news and hear about it and move on to the news cycle. This discussion, hopefully, will just raise, people's awareness about what dog owners, pet owners, whatever. This could have been tragic, and it could happen again somewhere else, and let's just hope we learn from it.
I think we need stronger legislation to make sure this don't happen. Like one thing with the town of any town, actually. Bigger cities is a little different, but with towns, they don't have, they did have complaints about these dogs, but they don't have the authority to go take these dogs out of that home. And I think when they have, that needs to be changed. When there is so many complaints and people are scared to go for a walk in their own neighborhood, then the town needs to have more authority to be able to do something about that and make everyone feel safe again. So hopefully, I'm going to be fighting for this to make some changes here. Something needs to be done.
Absolutely. And look, this forum right here is open to you anytime you want to make that point.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anita.
All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Okay, Dave, let's take that break. We'll be right back with the former consumer advocate for Newfoundland and Labrador, Dennis Brown, right after the break. And welcome back to the show. Let's go right to line number 3, and welcome to the show the now former consumer advocate, Dennis Brown. Dennis, good morning. Welcome. You're on the air.
Good morning, Brian. Yeah, it is former. I announced to the government in December that I would resign the position, but I would carry on until they had time to make a reappointment under the Independent Appointments Commission, which I felt would take a couple of months. And I told him I was quite prepared to stay on and to do the work, because there was so much work to do until that time. So,
Dennis, I just want to quickly mention it's 5 to 11, so we're not just going to spend 5 minutes with you. Just so you know, in about 5 minutes, I'm just going to cut in. We'll go to news, and then we'll continue our conversation. Just so you know.
Okay, it's all good.
And let's start right from the beginning here. Just remind me how you first got involved with the Public Utilities Board, and where you came from, how you came to end up in that position in the first place.
A lot of people ask that, but I think most have forgotten. I grew up in Grand Falls. My father worked in the mill in the supply store. My mother worked at the hospital on the switchboard. There were 6 children. My father ended up working in the supply store at Upper Churchill when they were building Churchill Falls. Got to know a lot of people, and we always heard about that. Anyway, I went to law school in 1983 and went to Dalhousie, and I studied administrative law, labor law, constitutional law. It's a great time to be in law school because the charter was coming out, and I was a fan of Pierre Elliott Trudeau and his writings, and the charter was much discussed and all the prospects for it. It was all just coming on stream. So it was a great time to be in school. I came out here to St. John's after I graduated, and I applied for jobs. Jobs were in short supply, really. I ended up getting a job at a smaller law firm, and but then I applied to the panel of arbitrators to become an arbitrator because that was my training. So I became a member of the panel of arbitrators, and I was arbitrating disputes between unions and employers. So that's what I did primarily in my practice at that time, plus the usual stuff, all the stuff you do, the wills, the real estate, the civil practice, which I continue to do to this day. It was sort of interesting when I got back to St. John's. I needed a date. My roommate was getting married here, and Chris Daw, actually, and he said, "You're invited to the wedding." So when I came back to St. John's, I didn't know too many people, but I was at a party, and Susan Chalker was there. So we met and chatted. I invited her to the wedding, and it's sort of an interesting story there. When I went to her house to pick her up at her house there in Dublin Road, it was a Friday evening. They had a dinner party there. And, well, it was like a meeting of the Bar of Newfoundland because Susan's mother was a Galway. And the Galway girls, 5 of them, had married lawyers here. So Mary had married Doug Tucker, who owned the Volkswagen dealership here. Teresita married Tommy Williams, who is Danny and Tommy's mother. Tommy's mother, she married Tommy Williams. He was a lawyer there. Carmel Galway married John Mahoney, who became deputy or minister of justice with Smallwood, and then ended up on the Court of Appeal at some point. Isabel married Noel Goodrich, who became Chief Justice of Newfoundland. And of course, Barbara married Jim Chalker, who had probably the foremost corporate practice in Newfoundland. He represented different countries. Actually, he represented Russia, the Russian airliner. He represented when the Come By Chance went into the highest bankruptcy procedure in Canada, he represented the Japanese government and companies there who had it. So he was known, and also eventually he became chair of the Public Utilities Board. So and
Dennis,
John Crosby was her favorite. Anyway, I married Susan, so I had all these legal connections. And that first day when I picked her up for the wedding, all these people were there, and I thought it was a meeting of the bar. And it was always senior members of the bar was there, so I was very anxious to move on to the wedding as soon as I could.
I can imagine. Dennis, we're right at 11. I know you wanted me to ask a little bit about the history. I love that that's out there, and people now now have a good biopic look at you. When we come back after the news, we're going to get into the hard stuff. I'm going to ask you some tough questions. Well, not some tough questions. You've already been answering them, but we're going to delve a little bit more into the current state of the consumer advocate position, where you think it should be going, and other things, and that's right after the news. So you can hold on for a couple of minutes for me?
Sure, and I remind you that I chaired the MOU panel,
yes,
and I'm into a confidentiality agreement as to what I can't say, so I have to be very careful what I am saying. But I'm reviewing all of that now, and I hope to say a lot more next week once I see exactly what I can be saying.
Absolutely. Well, we know your legal background, so we know you'll be careful. Hang on tight, and we're going to go right to news with Mr. Medora and be right back. Thanks.
You're listening to a rebroadcast of VOCM Open Line. Have your say by calling 709-273-5211 or 1-888-590-8626 and listen live weekday mornings at 9 a.m.
Welcome back to the show, and just a quick sports update here. And this is, I don't know, for all my tennis buddies, but anyone who follows sports to any extent. Novak Djokovic is not done yet. Oh, my God. So he escapes and emerges from a big five-setter with Jannik Sinner at the Aussie Open. He just knocked him off a little bit ago, five-setter. That sets up a wild one against Alcaraz in the final on Sunday, which is actually around 5 a.m. Newfoundland time, Sunday morning. If you're into it, I am, and I will be watching with, that's going to be fantastic. And Djokovic and Alcaraz in the final on Sunday. Excellent. Just thought I'd throw that in. Let's go back to line number 3. Dennis Brown, I don't know if you're a big tennis fan, but that was big news to me.
Yeah, I'll have to say it's news to me.
Okay,
I'll leave it at that.
Let's get to more important topics now. We got the history out of the way. So you knew you were going to do this as you did. You said you served notice back in December. How has the landscape changed since then?
Well, I served notice in December, and in December, everyone's electricity bills start coming out, and they were quite extensive, and people were writing in complaining that they were paying too much. And normally, I deal with the ratepayers collectively. I don't deal with individual complaints. But someone graciously put my telephone number here in my office to call me if you have a complaint at this number.
How have the phone lines been?
It was something I didn't put on there. It was nonstop.
Dennis, I'm going to send Dave over.
I'm talking about hundreds of calls.
I'm going to send Dave Williams over. Dave Williams is going to come over and help you out with that.
Yeah, okay.
Right after the show.
I need some help. Anyway, so I started doing all of that, and I was reading the complaints and so on, and the complaints were quite legitimate. And the complaints reference meters. People do not trust their meter. They claim that the meter is not reading correctly. And they don't trust. A lot of them say, I can't trust my complaint with Newfoundland Power. They're telling me, yeah, it's too cold out, or, they're giving me some suggestion as to why the bill has gone up. But he said, one fellow said to me, yes, but that's all well and good. But he said, by the way, I got oil heat. That has nothing to do with me. But my bill has gone up crazy anyway.
And I've heard other people mention they have baseboard heaters, and they have it turned off, yet it kicks in. Now, just for FYI, I noticed the same thing in my living room right now, which I just got renovated, and I don't have a lot of stuff going on in it right now, so I just keep the door closed until I can get at it. And I went in to just check on it the other day, and it was warm in there, and I went, what's going on in here? I don't need this heater. Went over, and sure enough, it wasn't blasting, but it was on, and that's all you need. Kick it in, and that's what spikes the bill. But anyway, I went downstairs, and I just turned off the breaker for that heater, which some people may have to do. Anyway, I just thought I'd throw that in.
Yeah, and everyone has a story, and when you're getting all of these emails, you come to the conclusion there is a serious problem here that is not being addressed. So I was in the process of taking all these complaints together and I was going in to ask the Public Utilities Board to do a major investigation to see what's going on here, because ratepayers have a right to know. Ratepayers are paying for all of this. They pay for Newfoundland Power, they pay for the board, they pay for everything. And if ratepayers have a complaint, they have a right to be heard and a right to be dealt with. They can't just be, they're not just bystanders. We pay for all of this. We're paying for it all. So a lot of people felt that they're paying for something they are not getting. They're paying too much for the bill, and the bill is not accurate, and there's a problem. Now, so I was in the process of doing all that, and the other thing I was in the process of doing is we had requested in the Newfoundland Power's capital budget, and they get extensive capital budgets, nearly $140 million annually, just too much. We've been trying to deal with that, but to no avail. But we wanted the smart meters introduced, and the board, in its order, said, we will order Newfoundland Power to give an update on its review of the implementation of advanced meter structuring, smart meters, in their next budget, which will be filed in June. So I said, well, good, that's a head start anyway.
But now,
Then I heard on open line, I'll finish my story, then I heard on open line the vice president of Newfoundland Power came on saying, we won't need smart meters here for 10 years. I said, hang on a minute here. Smart meters are all over Canada, and all of the rest of the Fortis companies have smart meters. And they have smart meters for a good reason, because it gives people control of their thermostat. It gives people a right to look at their phones. They'll see exactly what they're burning any given hour. And there are all kinds of other advantages, and that's why they're all over Canada and all over in the United States. They're everywhere, and we're behind here. And Newfoundland Power is not interested in giving smart meters to their customers, even though we're paying for those outdated meters that they got, which no one else appears to be using right now. And I read there the other day a company in the United States said these meters that Newfoundland Power are not using, you won't even be able to get parts for those in a couple of years' time. They are outdated, they are outmoded, and I'm not saying that. Experts are saying that. And our own experts have told the board countless times we should be moving to smart meters, because all these problems people are having now, they would not be having, and it's good for the system. Couple of things on that, Dennis, really quickly. My understanding was that the Newfoundland Power said they're too expensive for starters. Said it would cost $150 million, I think it was, to install them, and they said that wasn't budgeted, and that would be an expense that would have to be shouldered. As well, I'm pretty sure I heard him say that the meters that the meters that are there now, are 99% accurate. Is that true? Well. First, on the cost, Newfoundland Power got a very expensive budget, $140 million this year, and it looks like it'll be $140 million next year. That is our money. That is not their money. That is their capital budget. So we told the board that part of that money that they're giving to them for their capital budget should now be used for smart meters. And over 3 years, we'd have smart meters over the existing budgets. It wouldn't be extra money. And all over Canada, there's no uprise because people are in bills because people are using smart meters. In fact, people are using less electricity. It's advantageous to the customer, but it is not advantageous to Newfoundland Power. Newfoundland Power is making $1 million a week here profit on the current system. Thank you very much. Over $50 million annually in this small province. So the money is there. There's no new money required. Everywhere else in Canada, they got them. Save, I think, in Manitoba, and they're looking at it again now. So what is wrong here? It's just that they have it so good here. They don't want the change, and that's to the detriment of the ratepayers. So the ratepayers are paying for all these old outmoded meters, which are not being put in anywhere else, and which experts telling us won't be available in a couple of years' time anyway. And Newfoundland Power is telling us, well, too bad, we got to get rid of our supply we got 10 years of supply there. Well, did every other Fortis company not have supply? Didn't they have to get rid of them? You get rid of something that is outmoded and not in use anymore. You get rid of it. So, and there's provisions for that under the Act. So I don't see where they're coming from on that at all. They're being most disingenuous.
Dennis, I don't want to let you go, and I only got a couple of minutes here. I just wanted to comment on the replacement, the current interim replacement, for your position as consumer advocate. And, I know you made the point it can't be politicized, but do you think it is?
Well, Ball, when he became Premier, brought in the Independent Appointments Commission. So under the Independent Appointments Commission, anybody could apply for some of these jobs, some of which is consumer advocate. When he brought it in, Tom Johnson was still, and he had been Danny's appointment, was still consumer advocate. But Ball said he is staying in that role until the Independent Appointments Commission is set up. Then anyone can apply for the position, including him. So that's where we are, and that's where we should be. So when I told him I was resigning, I said I was aware of that process. I said it'll probably take a couple of months. I will stay on to do all the work I normally do until you have a correct appointment. Now, the appointment should be full-time. We are beyond a part-time consumer advocate. It's just too much work. I'm here in my law office. I do my law work. I'm doing this work, and it's too much. I was happy to resign. I'd been doing it for 10 years, and it's time to pass the torch to someone else. I wanted to do all that on my own, so I did that. But now it seems to me that they are not following that Independent Appointments Commission, the intent and the spirit of it. I told them I was willing to stay until they do that process, and they've interfered with that now by appointing someone who's probably good, capable, and competent, but she should not have a head start on the application by doing some work now and saying when the application comes before the Independent Appointments Commission, well, she's acting, she knows it, etc. Anyone should have the right to apply, and no one should be given the heads up. So they're doing it wrong, and I think they're doing it contrary to the Act. And furthermore, anyone has a right to apply. You don't have to be a lawyer. I said on the news there the other day, before I listened to Paddy Daly's interview last night, I said, wouldn't he make a great consumer advocate? He knows the province so well, knows all the issues, and you retain lawyers when you're a consumer advocate. You can retain lawyers. And there are others out there like him, and everyone should have a right to apply, and there should be no preference given to anyone. So that's where I think they're gone wrong there, and it has to be full-time.
Yeah, and in the interest of transparent too, is I do know the minister mentioned the other day that the question was asked, will there still be, the process through the Independent Appointments Commission? And it was said, yes, it will still go through that. Now, I know you said that, but you feel like... And the person in the position right now, Adrian Ding, St. John's lawyer, and actually I just sat through the proceedings on the provincial election recounts in Supreme Court, which he litigated on behalf of the government, and very capably so, needless to say. I mean, these are tangly issues. So great litigator in the courtroom, and certainly capable. But as your point is taken, I guess it's a wait and see, just like a lot of things with the new government. That they say it still will go before the Appointments Commission, but whether or not being in the interim role right now, as Ms. Ding gives her a heads up, I guess that'll be for them to judge. Dennis,
well, where did she come from? Who recommended Ms. Ding?
Well,
what application process was out on that? This is the problem, and that's what Ball, when he became Premier, wanted to stop. He wanted to stop this political type appointment, which we are now seeing here. He wanted to stop that. He wanted everyone to have a fair and useful opportunity, and he followed through with it entirely during his career. So anybody should be able to apply without preference.
Dennis, I thank you. As you mentioned, how busy you are trying to, well, I guess you got the Consumer Advocate office off your back now, but as busy as you still are, I appreciate the time. I know you've been well sought after this week by media for your thoughts on this, and I appreciate you sharing them on Open Line.
Yes, and I'm still reviewing the MOU and what's gone on with that MOU and what's happened now and how they've interfered with the MOU. And they're not looking at what Commissioner LeBlanc said in the report. The Commissioner LeBlanc said how to go about all this, and it seems like they've read nothing. So I'm going to speak to all of that probably one day next week when I'm ready and when I know what I can say and what I can't.
Absolutely. We'll have you back then. I'll be here, and I look forward to just continuing this call because, we never had time to get right into that. And how that's played out and the implications. So, yes, absolutely. Next week, Dennis, we're here for you.
All the best.
Appreciate it. Thanks very much. Dennis Brown, former consumer advocate. Okay, Dave, apologize to all the powers that be for going over the break. We'll be right back. And welcome back to the show. But it's amazing. I'm not out of breath. But, if you only saw the goings on in between breaks. Let's go to line number 1. And, Mike, you're on the air.
Good morning.
Morning, Mike.
I'd like to comment on the person there called in about the ferries.
Yes, sir.
In the last little while, you talked about the incompetency of that department. Like the last deputy minister, he came there without any qualifications in the marine industry. He complicated matters, and he never had any experience or anything else, which is the same holds true for just about everybody in that department. And anyway, he was being looked at for giving out bad contracts, one of which was to a HVAC company for $200 per hour. And then there was a lot of different things, how he alienated the staff. Nobody had any use for him. He was holding them to their budgets. But when contractors came in, all of a sudden there was multitudes of millions of dollars given out to various contractors. Why? Needless work that had to be done. And his whole years in service with the public sector has been turmoil, excuse me, and where he was to before with the garbage collection and that, and this contract given out, and we still got problems with the garbage and everything else, a multitude of problems. Then he went to the Confederation building, repairs, went $56 million over budget. His only comment was, you can't do a project like this and not go over. His whole series of works and jobs with the government have been disastrous, costing the government millions of dollars. He was being investigated by the Liberals at the final going off, and if he had stayed there for the election, he would have been fired by the PCs. But anyway, in the meantime, just before the election, he went in the morning and wrote emails that he was quitting or he's gone or whatever, and cleaned out his office and quit amid these suspicions and what was going on into his duties as the deputy minister. So then anyway, now all of a sudden, he left that and he's gone with Hydro. And for whatever position that he's gone with Hydro or whatever, I don't know, but it leaves serious questions about, how did he get this job with Hydro? And with all of these bad deals and contracts and everything with the government, is there more people involved that they gave him a position, took him out of there, and put him into Hydro? It leaves questions about his job with Hydro and the reputation of Hydro as regards to the hiring practice of why he got this job. I've questioned it, but I can't get any answers. But I need this be all looked at, because with this government department especially, there's a lot of wrongdoings. A lot of people there are unqualified. Like right now, from what I'm told, there's an oiler who is the lower position of the engine room doing interviews for chief engineers. The whole people up and down the line are just not qualified. And you can't get a hand on the whole works without getting rid of just about everybody in that department, including the finance department of that department. there's a lot of people here involved into this, and it's all in the Confederation building. And until that department is practically wiped out, and the department in what they call Lewisport, that department should be all gone. That department was run with more ships and a lot more work and everything else by 6 people, and now there's about 40. And it's an entanglement that work is not being done. All of these engine changes, the modifications and everything, all never had to be done, all at the expense of the taxpayers, by the Liberals, to discredit the PCs, and just a total waste of money into this department.
And Mike, if you don't mind, sorry, if you, I'm just coming up to the break. I'll give you a minute to go up. I will say this, as I said to the earlier caller, I'm no engineer, let alone a ferry engineer or oilman or anything like that. What I do know is there has been a change of government, and they say they're going to put their money where their mouth is, so to speak, with the new ferry contracts and all the rest of it. If this isn't an opportunity for clean, wholesome, clean sweep and change, then there is then it doesn't happen. But one can only hope, and I don't know the individual you're talking about. There's a lot of personal detail there, which is why we really don't, and I appreciate you not naming him or naming anyone anyway, because it can be, it doesn't help matters. The point here is that ferry system, our ferry system, the coastal ferry system, let alone the Gulf system, which we can also talk about, are in hard shape. They need a wholesome relook, which is what the government has promised. And of course, we had the other lobby this week of the groups, the business interests and the Board of Trade and that sort of thing here in the city, pressing the federal government for better capacity on the Gulf ferry as well. All I can tell you is that it's history repeating itself on the Belle Island run and the Change Islands and Fogo, the swing vessel that's been promised. We'll see where it all goes. If there are problems that were there in administration or in the mechanical side or even at the ADM level, let's just hope they're identified. The government has said they're not messing around anymore, and let's hope they keep their word. Let's see. Off to that last break of the morning, Dave, with the news, and we'll be right back for the final home stretch with Carl Furlong, former NAPE President Carl Furlong, after the break.
The Tim Powers Show. Join the conversation weekday afternoons at 4 p.m. on your VOCM.
Come back to the home stretch for this Friday morning, almost afternoon. Quick note before we go to our next caller. I mentioned earlier lost goalie bag there between Kelsey Drive and McDonald Drive Junior High. That's found. Awesome. And knowing the cost of goalie equipment these days, let alone just the relief of finding that. So we got a note back, and after throwing that out there, I don't know if Open Line can take full credit for this, but we got a note just a short time ago saying the bag's been found. Thank you to everyone. That's deadly. Let's go to line number 2, and Carol Furlong, you are on the air.
Oh, good morning, Brian.
Good morning. Long time no talk.
Yes, I've been very kind of quiet about most issues, but I can't be quiet about this one.
Nope, and I should just say, former president of the Newfoundland and Labrador Association of Public Employees, I believe when you were the president, was it just public and they added private after?
No? Actually, just before I took over, it was changed.
It changed as you took over. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, fire away.
So I'm calling about Memorial University and the changes they intend to make for their cost-cutting measures. And I someone said to me one time he was gobsmacked at something or other that he had heard, and I thought, I don't even know what you mean. Now I do, because I really am at a loss to understand how Memorial University can be so what can I say, so culturally inept when it comes to dealing with our heritage. They're trying to take the easy way out. We're talking about a group of people who should be, the most academically fit minds in our province. And they can't see outside the box when it comes to trying to find ways to deal with cost spending. We have one of the things that they've talked about, and this is probably the most serious, I think, is that they're going to sell off. They plan to sell off the GEO Center. Now, for anyone who doesn't know what that is, That's considered to be Earth's geological showcase. It was donated, it was a gift from the Johnson Foundation. And subsequently, they received monies from the federal and provincial governments.
And Carol, if you don't mind me just mentioning, it's literally built into Signal Hill. It's built into the hill, into the rock. The rock is exposed in the building underneath. So it makes one wonder what else it could be made out of it. But sorry, I just wanted to note that.
Absolutely. And Brian, here's the thing. Newfoundland and Labrador is known for our geology. Around the world, we're known for it. And what we have, you cannot find it anywhere else. And the whole idea of taking something of this magnitude, something that is our cultural heritage, and selling it off to for what I would say the 30 pieces of silver, well, is absolutely incredible. And I don't believe that it should be allowed. And I understand fully well that they're trying to deal with the mismanagement over the years. But there are other ways of dealing with it. And I can tell you, because you just raised that whole issue of the geology. And, up on Signal Hill, the rocks up there are over 550 million years old. And that's even older than like the Appalachian Mountains, the Western Rocky Mountains. And what the center provides is it's like a snapshot in time. And once that's gone, we're never going to get that back. We don't know what will happen once they sell that off. Is it going, because clearly it's going to be a purchased by millionaires or billionaires, I guess. And the center at the time that Mon was given it was valued at $20 million. So we've seen in recent times how these buildings, these cultural buildings, are being sold off to the money they get for them is not really very much. But I can tell you this. And we've heard this many times before, where there's talk of selling off something to get money. So, okay, that's a short-term solution. If you sell something off, and what's one going to do next year and the year after when they've sold off their properties, their most valuable assets, and they still have no money because they've spent it all? Well, that's short-lived. But there's a greater issue here at hand, and that is that they're selling off our cultural heritage. And it seems to me that they really have, it's a cultural capitalism. And they've got to be aware of the importance to this province that geocenter is, and Signal Hill area, because there are several pieces on Signal Hill.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the Fortune Head, ecological reserve down in Fortune, the 560 million years and old rocks and that sort of thing in the same age of these. And just to be clear, it's early days. This came down this week, and I do know I heard most of what the president, Janet Morrison, mentioned, the new Mon president, talking about. No decisions have been made on any of those properties, and I can see the battery definitely. There's a dollar sign on that. There's not the battery, the Emera Invention Center. I call it the battery because that's where I worked. But in any event, that building across the road, I can see that. Mm-hmm. I can see the dollar signs in their eyes on that one. The Geo Center, I know they haven't made any decisions yet, and let's just hope. Smarter academic heads prevail. As you mentioned, these are the smart people. Hopefully they can see the value in that. I mean, that should be a high school course. Go there on your field trip, every school, every class, in the high school area, just to get an idea and appreciate what we have up there. But I'm hoping, the logical thing here would be back to the government. It was gifted by the Johnson Family Foundation. Maybe put it back to their, bailiwick somehow. If there's still I know the foundation itself, in any capacity that it still exists, should have a say in this. I think it was theirs to begin with. It was their idea. It was the genesis of them. So I mean, that's where I stand now. I don't know what anyone plans to do, but I'd like to see it go into the hands of government and be properly taken care of, as opposed to some of the other assets.
Well, just to speak about what you just mentioned, every day there's a school bus parked outside that building. Yep. Because the children are there to learn. It's the only place in the world where you could find most of this information. It's about Newfoundland and Labrador culture and heritage and geology. It's a major scientific and geological museum, and in the world, it's world renowned. A site that really can't be given up. And what will happen to it once it's sold? Now, I read on the Munn site, they're looking to shut it. If it's not sold by December, it says that they're going to just shut it down. Well, I'm sorry. I think we owe more to our province, and we have an obligation to our province to ensure that our heritage is intact, and the people of this province, and I see this more so than anywhere else, have a very strong dedication to our culture. And well, we can't just sit by and allow somebody to come in here with no cultural appreciation for us and for our province, and say we're going to get rid of it all.
Yeah, and I don't want to throw it into the same category as the Ode to Newfoundland, but it kind of rings in people's minds again of decisions that are made or not made without proper consultation or consideration. Again, the Munn has said they went to the Johnson Family Foundation as a courtesy. Whether or not they offered them any control over what happens to the building is another thing. Carol, there's a couple of other questions I hope you don't mind I wanted to ask you, but we're right up to the break. Do you mind hanging on for a minute? You got a couple of minutes left?
Yes.
Definitely. Okay, deadly. Dave, let's take a break, come back with Carol, and a couple more questions, of course. Can't let the former president of NAPE go without that. So we'll be right back. And welcome back to the program. Let's just go quickly rejoin Carol Furlong on line number 2. Carol, thanks so much for hanging on. I just wanted one more question. Look, I know you don't want to step on the toes of the current NAPE president, Jerry Earle, great work that he's doing, but he does say he's encouraged from what he's hearing from the provincial government, the new government, regarding the public sector and the importance of recruitment and retention. I'm sure you're keeping an eye and an ear to things. How do you feel?
Well, I'm not involved in any discussions with the government in that regard. And like everybody else, I just hear what's in the news, of course. But if they don't step up to the plate and ensure that we've got people in many of our systems that are not going to require AI, or taken over by AI, we're going to be in serious trouble, I think. And, years ago, I remember saying that they didn't hire diagnostic equipment techs out in central Newfoundland. There weren't going to be any in a few years' time if they didn't deal with those issues. And they stepped up to the plate at that time to try and try and get people. And we gave suggestions as to how they could improve that whole system. Talked to when I was in power, and gave ideas. I didn't go in. I always didn't go in with a problem. I tried to go in with solutions to problems, and that's how I functioned. And so, you can't have a public service that has nobody in it, or you have no public service. As we know, our healthcare system is in a mess. Has been, and issues have been has been identified, and they're trying to deal with some of those. So I don't know if we will ever see a true solution. But they have right now. They've brought in some initiatives to try and deal with those. So I see those as good things. Putting up those other sites and whatever. But in a few years down the road, I don't know who's going to be left to look after the old people. And because we've got as half our population now are seniors, and somebody's got to take care of. I think we still need to deal with the issue of how to prepare for the future and to give that some serious consideration and talk to the people once more on the front lines. And if you're talking about seniors, then that's who you need to talk to.
Yeah,
some of that is missing.
No, absolutely. And the whole issue of public-private partnerships is another issue that was just percolating when you were president. So are you interested to see how that's developed over the years and which way it's going?
Well, here's the reality. They're talking about letting seniors stay in their own homes. Wonderful idea, but you better put something in place to help seniors. When you can't get out of your house because you can't shovel, or you can't get around because you have no car anymore, you can't drive. I think the communities have to take. I see that as a major thing. I think they need to involve communities to try and work with people who are in a situation now where they're saving money for governments because they're not in the healthcare system. You're at home, but you need to have some services made available to you. And I think that seniors are the only ones now who are living into that system, who are in that system. Here's the reality. You don't know you're getting old. All of a sudden, you look in the mirror one day and you go, oh, who is that?
Oh, I know it.
And right? Yes. And you're in a situation where you can't get around like you could, but there's no circumstances provided for you to be able to engage in all those activities again. So I think those are kinds of like community issues, and that can be remedied, because it's all about taking care of each other, and that's what we do best. That's what we say in our ads all the time.
Absolutely.
So I think there's some merit to that. But let me just say, if we're constantly selling off everything, this idea with Munn, selling off this geo center, for example, that's a prime example. Get rid of it, sell it off to the private sector or whatever. We don't know, or would they tear it down? Because that center, because I'm gone back to where I was now, but that center is a unique. Our geological history is unique. We have something that nowhere else in the world do they have it now, and we're looking to destroy it. And the Premier has said, I'm going to pass it over and let Munn deal with those issues. I promise him that. But this is not about institutional autonomy. This is about ensuring the survival of your own cultural heritage. And the Premier may very well have to step into this fray. And if it's not dealt with, then he's going to have to take charge. He is the Premier.
Yep.
And I just say that. But
I got a call too, Carol. I got one more call I want to squeeze in who wants to talk about the Geo Centre. So if you want to give just a couple of more thoughts real quick.
I just want to say I hope that people will contact their members of the House of Assembly and also Munn to tell them exactly how awful and atrocious and this is. And the Geo Centre will never be able to be replicated again, and highly unlikely with the massive donation that was made at that time. I doubt very much we'll ever see a philanthropic donation of this magnitude again.
Carol Furlong, former President AIFA. I'm sorry, I wish I had more time. But look, I'm here all next week. So anything else on your mind, give us a shout, and we'll have a chat, okay?
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for the call. Okay, let's just go real quick. Sorry, a little rush. We got a couple of minutes left. Jane, I think Jane on line number one. I think you had a quick comment on Geo Centre. I wish I had more time, but fire away.
I wish I had more time than a quick time, because I have to say that Carol Furlong really expressed extremely well how I feel about the Geo Centre. I'm 80 years old. My grandchildren are in their 20s. They and I spent an extraordinary amount of time at the Geo Center, where I learned more about the history of our origins than I ever would have known if it hadn't been there. It is a structure that is a main attraction for tourism, but it's also beautifully expressed inside the way that the sides of the lake upon which it was built show everything about our origins.
Absolutely.
And I think, to me, it's the university needs to realize that this is not just a structure to be liquidated and turned into cash. This is a structure that really is unique in the world, and it should be protected, and people should be caring about the fact that they're so eagerly disassociated from such a jewel. To me, a jewel that really does enhance that whole entire area. And the more things that you destroy like that or take down and liquidate the money so that you can put new tiles up on the infrastructure of the university, well, what are you doing to the rest? You're not leaving us anything. By doing that, I can understand certain structures can be liquidated, but the Geo Center is a place of science.
And Jane, you will not get an argument from me. I got 30 seconds to wrap up. Thank you for the call. Please call back next week. I hate giving anyone short shrift on this show. But I will say this, if nothing else, the lobby for the Geo Center has begun. Again, I've learned so much about the geology of our province just from the Geo Center myself every time I go there. 10 seconds. Dave Williams, thank you so much, buddy, for all this week. It's been a wild one. I'm back next week. That's all I'm going to say for now. Drive safely, arrive alive. VOCM cares.